Paris has always loved artists and musicians, from local balladeers to the American jazzmen and blues singers who first came to town in the 30s, escaping the depression or racism back home. The city became the jazz and blues headquarters of Europe. Today, one of the more distinguished rhythm and blues musicians with a bass here, insofar as he has a bass anywhere, is a guitarist who was born in Deptford, South London, 37 years ago. Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones. His partner and friend from school days, Mick Jagger, also lives here some of the time. True to his legendary form, Keith Richards only comes out at night. On the night before the Stones' Paris show, he met us for a rare television interview, suitably late, in a bar in the town that's almost home.
I have an apartment here, so it's kind of handy if I'm around Europe, it sort of gravitate to Paris, you know. And as much of a base as anywhere, as you say.
So insofar as you live permanently anywhere, it's more here than anywhere else?
Yeah, for any length of time, yeah. You know, for extended periods of time. For me, an extended period of time is 3 weeks. You know.
But do you live very much at night? I mean, it's almost midnight now.
Yeah, it seems to work out that way. It's night time, you know. I generally keep the curtains drawn.
You seem to be the mainstay of rhythm and blues and the blues within the band. Is that a fair way of looking at it?
I'd say I'm one of them. Everybody in the band is very well grounded in that area of music. I mean, because that is at one time all we used to play, you know, faithfully, you know. It was almost heresy to play anything else for a long time, you know. It was, after all, the Stones' ambition, as far as it went when it started, was 3 or 4 good club gigs around London, just enough to keep the amplifiers going and keep yourself in guitar strings and play rhythm and blues to English audiences. Well, up until then, we considered nobody had really done that, you know, and but we couldn't see it getting any bigger than 3 or 4 back rooms of pubs, you know. And we certainly weren't in it for the money, you know. We wanted to preach the gospel of rhythm and blues at some idealistic kids, you know. The thing is, in this band, everybody supports happily everybody else, you know, and which is probably one of the main reason that we're still playing together, you know, is that we actually enjoy playing together, you know, and still it's fun for us, you know, it's like a very well-paid hobby.
The band are ferried out to enjoy their hobby in little yellow vans with dark glass windows. Today they're playing at a racecourse, the Hippodrome d'Auteuil, where their enormous stage has been set up facing the grandstand. He may have been playing it for 13 years, but Keith Richards still crashes enthusiastically into honky-tonk women. fellow musicians and Stones enthusiasts, Keith Richards is one of the great guitarists. For the public at large, he's been the Rolling Stone most often in trouble, almost always for drugs. For 10 years, he seemed to be in and out of court. Redlands, his house in West Wittering, was raided in '67, and police said various substances were found. He was jailed for a year, but released after an appeal. 10 years later, in Canada, it was even more serious. He was arrested in Toronto and charged with trafficking in heroin. The fans around the courtroom knew that if he was jailed for a lengthy period, it would be the end for the Stones.
He's not like every one of us. He's different. He's Keith.
In the event, he was given a suspended sentence, told to continue his treatment to cure heroin addiction, and ordered to perform a concert for the blind. After the Toronto incident, Keith Richards says he gave up heroin.
Eventually, in Toronto, yes, you know, the very fact that I was a total junkie for almost 10 years leaves me now realizing that it didn't worry me too much then because of the very nature of heroin. You know, nothing worries you. That's just, it's a very gradual thing to get into. It's a very easy thing to take and get into, and very incredibly difficult to get off. The black market, especially in heroin, is very, very dangerous because they're totally unscrupulous and they have nobody to answer to. So you can find yourself taking just one great big dose of strychnine. That's why there's such a high fatality rate amongst musicians, especially because it goes along musicians' life and always has done, you know, because of the ups and downs, the adrenaline, the energy, the making a gig the next day when you're totally drained, and it's passed on from one generation of musicians to the next, you know. And looking back on it, I'm amazed that I didn't get onto it a lot earlier, you know. Getting off of it takes so long because by the time it's got you, you don't, you know, this big thing you're not thinking clearly about things. Toronto made me realize that this was it, you know. I mean, this time, if I made a break with it and got out of the court hassle, it would, but another time would be it, and I was jeopardizing the lives and the future of the children, the guys in the band, yeah, and not just myself. You know, that made me realize that it wasn't just me. You know, it wasn't just me. It was going to affect everybody that I care about. You know, and so in a way they did me a favor. You know, God bless the Mounties.
In the years when you were a junkie, you were presumably in danger sometimes as much from the people you had to deal with as from the drugs themselves.
In the States and a few other hot spots in the world, Marseille at that time, I don't think so much now, but there were a couple of times in New York these people have incredible setups, works out, you know, look out for the cops and and suddenly some paranoid junkie would scream at their coming, and a couple of times bullets would thud into the wall, and just, forget it. I'll cold turkey. But, yeah, New York can be real rough on that.
So you'd have to wander out among these guys after a concert or whatever.
The next time you take a gun with you. That was it, you know. I carried a piece in those days. You know.
How long do you carry a gun for?
Until I stopped being a junkie, you know, until I didn't have to deal with that anymore, you know.
That's just a vital part of self-preservation, was it?
Yeah, because you'd buy the stuff, walk down the stairs, and they'd have their mate waiting there, so stick you up and take it back again. You know? So, can't have that, can we?
Has your whole approach to life in general changed over the last 5 years? Was it
Well, it's given me more time to live a slightly more normal life and to be interested and to be able to follow through interests in other... I mean, I can now sit down and read a book occasionally. I'll go out and see other acts rather than be stuck in a basement somewhere waiting for the man to come, you know.
Against many expectations, Keith Richards hasn't just survived the 70s, he survived in excellent form. On stage, his guitar sparring partner is Ron Wood, another distinguished veteran rock and roll raver, who tends to go around with Richards when they're on the road.
He's setting more of an example to me these days than I am to him, you know. When I first met him, he used to be like the guy up there somewhere, you know, who you often couldn't communicate with unless you had a baked bean can and a piece of string or something. But no, he was hard to get through to if you weren't on his wavelength. So I've seen him when he was really heavily into the dope, which everyone knows about, and now that he's not, he makes me feel guilty, you know. But if I have too much to drink, he's going to go, "Oh, Woody, you know, keep it together," kind of. I was like, "Oh my God, you know."
Do you have any ambitions left after 20 years with the Stones, or has that fulfilled most of it?
Never had any sort of definite ambitions in the first place. I guess the one, if there is a general one, it's connected with the band in that we're still trying to make the Stones a better band. We're still trying to get better, and I guess we all think we are, because you wouldn't get these guys to do it if they thought that they'd reached the point of no return. If it was just there, you know, oh, here we go, you know, let's just do the Rolling Stones. They go on every night. I know every one of them does. The idea of making this show a little bit better than the one before, you know, which is admirable, I think. I mean, they're very good boys, you know, in a way.
What would you do if the Stones, or when the Stones, as they must, eventually broke up?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I actually read something the other day which, after the Scottish gigs, which suggested that there was now no reason why the Stones couldn't be Sinatra and Bing Crosby, which I thought was an amazing kind of comparison. But see, the thing is with rock and roll that nobody's ever done it that long enough for the idea of older people to play it, you know. It's been, yeah, which no doubt people thought about jazz in the 20s, you know. It would be inconceivable.
Nobody thought that Louis Armstrong could keep going more than 25 or 30.
But I mean, I play with Muddy Waters, for instance, in Chicago, and he's no young guy anymore, but he's playing as good as ever, you know, and if he can do it, sure I can. You know, given the few obvious things like not having my hands chopped off or anything.
Tomorrow, Keith Richards, Mick Jagger, Ron Wood and the rest are back in London for their first major concert in their real hometown in 6 years. 20 years on, they show no sign yet of tiring of their very well-paid hobby.